Hi, it's a pleasure to meet you finally.
Pleasure to meet you.
It's funny because like a lot of people always tell me like, hey Patrice, you just look like the same way you did like 20 years ago. But I call them liars because they're trying to be kiss asses. But in your case, I mean, you might be a bit taller, but you just look like the same way as like Third Rock from the Sun.
Oh really? Okay. Well, thank you. I think that's a compliment.
Well, it's first of all I have to say like the same thing that I told just like Zemeckis. It's like a brilliant movie. I really have to give it. It's like a brilliant movie, and I know that you're also like a director. So working with somebody like Zemeckis, with his references and his agenda, is it that sometimes you just seek as an actor to prosper from that experience, or is it even that you said like, well, Robert, back in the days, it used to be a good thing as a director, but I believe I could do it better.
Well, I certainly had a lot to learn from watching him as a director, and he was actually really generous because he had seen the movie that I directed, and he was really complimentary and specific about his praise for my work as a director, and that obviously meant a lot to me. And but yeah, there was so much to learn from watching him and how he ran a set and how he would set up his shots and how he treated his story. And there's a reason why he's made so many great movies over the years.
So you're referring to Don John.
Mm-hmm.
Don John, a
yeah,
movie that a lot of men can, relate to.
Yes, indeed.
All I'm saying, but because Don John, that's something I was like, yeah, I could do that same thing. But here, as I'm Afraid of Heights, I was really sitting like this in my chair.
Yeah.
It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But how's it for you? Are you afraid of heights? Because it seems that you had to learn also just to do the high wire, right?
Yeah. Well, Philippe Petits, the man who walked between the two towers in real life, he's the one who taught me how to walk on the wire. And not everyone who's good at doing something is also good at teaching it. But he turned out to be a really great teacher, and that was an important part of the whole experience for me.
I was actually looking for that pin of Hit Record,
Oh, yeah.
the show that I saw. Was there a bit of yourself in that presentation of the walk? Because it really seems it's pretty much the same routine that you have in order to present. And also, it seemed that it had to be a bit exaggerated because I don't think that Petit ever stood somewhere like on the Statue of Liberty and presenting his work.
Yeah, you're right. This is a version of the story that's presented larger than life, and I love that about it because there's lots of sort of more objective reports of this story, and there's a wonderful documentary, Man on Wire, that's a beautiful movie, but sort of more of a journalistic and kind of objective perspective on the whole thing, whereas this is more subjective. It's through the eyes of Philippe Petits, and Philippe's perspective is not grounded in reality. Philippe's perspective is like a fairy tale, and it is larger than life. It's like a myth, and so, like you say, Mr. Zemeckis, I think, is the perfect director to kind of capture that larger than life tone, but still grounded in real human emotions. And you can find examples of that in so many of his movies, like Back to the Future or like Forrest Gump, or any number of others.
Yeah, I was already complaining about not having the hoverboard. The last question would be because I also learned that you studied some French poem. Was that also kind of helpful then for that role in particular? Because I thought, like, are they trying to have his character speak most of the time English so that he doesn't have to come up with an American accent speaking French, rather having like a French accent speaking English?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's also true though that Philippe doesn't like speaking French. Even though he speaks English with a French accent, I would try to get him to speak French. I would speak French to him a lot, and he would respond with maybe a sentence in French before he would go back to English. He prefers speaking in English. He never went back to France as anything other than a visitor. He still lives in New York to this day, and he just really likes English and American English.
So I understand presenting this movie in France must be like, oh, come on, Joseph, parle un petit peu français avec nous, ça va?
Ouais, on peut parler un peu de français, tu veux?
What about German?
No.
Okay, then
Nein.
Then is it even?
Nein. I said, I know.
Yeah, but it's just like one word, and you've been like immunity.
I don't know much German.
You know what?
Sorry.
I still like you. I still like you as an actor.
Entschuldigung, ich spreche kein Deutsch.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Dankeschön.
Dankeschön.
Die Leute fragen mich, warum riskierst du den Tod? Für mich ist das Leben.
Willkommen in New York. Haben Sie was zu verzollen?
Ich werde ein Drahtseil spannen zwischen den 2 Türmen des World Trade Centers und darauf laufen.
Viel Glück!
Egal, wo ich hinging oder was ich tat, ich war immer auf der Suche nach dem perfekten Platz, um mein Drahtseil zu spannen.
Wow.
Ich brauche deine Hilfe, um das zu schaffen.
Ich kenne da jemanden.
Es geht los.
Legt einen Zahn zu, ich stehe im Halteverbot.
Ich finde einen Weg, das Seil darüber zu kriegen. Ich glaube, wir sollten warten.
Nein!
Das ist extrem illegal. Gefährlich sowieso.
Mein Kopf ist voller Zweifel. Wenn es soweit ist, auf den Draht zu steigen, weiß ich nicht, ob ich für den ersten Schritt bereit bin.
Dein Herz wird dir sagen, was zu tun ist.
Der Mann ist offensichtlich verrückt. Sind wir nur hier, um ihm beim Sterben zuzusehen?
Das ist kein Spiel, Philipp. Wenn du nur einen Fehler machst, wirst du sterben.
It's because, I mean, there used to be a time when I was like, oh, that must be an honor meeting Zemeckis because of someone who actually has been such a huge part of my generation, I would say. But then, you know, then I saw like Flight where you had like Whip, which I thought was a great rock star, but then he got punished, but the companies got away. You had Angelina Jolie and Beowulf naked, but not really naked because she's animated. You're exploiting someone like Tom Hanks, giving like one check. He has to play so many roles like in Polar Express. But this is the problem here. It's 2015. See this?
Yeah.
Wheels.
Right.
No hoverboard. So I'm asking, as I now prove that you're a liar, why should people care for a movie about a guy who apparently could also easily take the elevator just to go from one building to another one?
Well, no, well, first of all, that's not true. You can't take an elevator from one building to the other.
Good point.
And we do have hoverboards. You haven't been up. Lexus built one.
But
yeah. What's that?
It even floats on water, which the original one doesn't.
Well, right. So theirs is even more improved. Here's the problem with predicting the future, is that you always underestimate it.
I see.
There was, in Back to the Future Part 2, we don't have iPhones.
And actually, Laserdiscs don't exist anymore.
And Laserdiscs don't exist anymore.
Okay, I got this point. All right, then the ice was broken, and I can tell you, it's a brilliant movie. I really enjoyed it. I'm afraid of heights. The last few minutes were being quite painful, I must say. And I admire actually the way that you just work with the new techniques, but also like to implement special effects without really making them so obvious. But then again, why Joseph and not Tom Hanks once again? I mean, that would have been a...
Well, Tom Hanks is too old. I mean, the character is like in his mid-20s. So I love Tom Hanks, but you can't put him in everything. We got to make room for a generation of magnificent young actors coming up as well. So it would be like asking me, why don't I have Tom Hanks play a woman? Can't do it.
So what's your secret? What's the balance that you put into movies? Because what I really love about it is, like, again, I mentioned the special effects, which are part of the movie, but not obvious. But at the same time, that you're still able just to focus on the characters. Because I had this warm feeling at the end of the movie, without giving any spoiler out. I mean, how do you focus on such a project, saying like, this is what I want to achieve with this type of movie?
I subscribe to a magnificent quote by Francois Truffaut, who said that a really good movie is a perfect blend of truth and spectacle. And when you can do those two things in cinema, I agree that becomes a good movie. That's what I strive for in everything that I do. Human truth and then visual spectacle. That's what we go to the movies for.
And so a technical question, because like most of the time, Philippe is speaking English because he wants to improve his English. Is it really that he was like that in the past, or is it really just to make it more helpful for Joseph in order not to have too much of a thick American accent?
No. That a lot of that is very, 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 very true. Philippe to this day has a very thick French accent. I mean, Philippe is. Never I mean, he goes back and forth, but he is a resident of New York ever since he's done the walk. No, it was important that his team of accomplices spoke English in New York as much as they could. It was part of his coup plan.
All right, then. Thank you so much.
Thank you.